You're watching CNN. And now from London, England, our reporter Rahila Mohammed.
In a report, Greenpeace called for industrialised countries to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2020. CNN invited the president of Greenpeace, Rosemary Forsyth, and the chairman of the American Petroleum Institute, Lucas Fuling, to the big debate show. Here are some of the highlights of the deliberation as they went head-to-head on the issues of climate change.
We think it's a very important issue we have to tackle. But the way we have to tackle it in this crisis at the moment is very different. We have to have a fully fledged, flexible approach that takes into account the wishes of the economy, takes into account the needs for the environment, and doesn't just take care of sustainable economical, environmental issues. Because we think that if you just focus on renewable energy, for example, you leave out so many important things, and it will be really bad for our environment, which will be bad eventually for the people.
Now more than ever, it is imperative that all state members stand up and be counted or suffer the catastrophic consequences and bring us down with them. The effects of global warming and the use and exploitation of finite natural resources are not just imminent or remain to be seen. We, some more than others, are already feeling their tangible and devastating effects. And dramatic reduction in emissions of both developed and developing nations by 2015 and 2020 respectively, the transition and wholehearted implementation of a global renewable energy and standardized efficiency blueprint, such as wind and solar power, all represent essential strategies. Greenpeace thus advocates a strong and binding resolution to be achieved as part of COP15.
It is important that we take action, but it depends on what kind of action we take. If we just focus on renewable energy, we will have a huge problem with our economy coming up, and that is something that will affect the poorest nation the most. So we have to take care that they can still develop. They can build up their capacities themselves to tackle climate change. Because if they have to do it now by law, if they're obliged to do it, the possibility is that unemployment will rise very short term, that also the economy will go down, poverty will increase, food sustainability is not guaranteed anymore. So we have to find some flexible solutions for that problem.
We are advocating renewable energy sources, but we're also realistic. We understand there has to be a transitionary period. And as, you know, an industrialized nation that you represent, API, we would look...
We're representing a lot of nations.
Yeah. But we would look to you as part of historical responsibility and accountability that you could responsibly use natural gases to aid this transition process.
We absolutely spend a lot of money on renewable energy, and indeed we're accounting for almost half of the budget of the US spending on renewable energies, 44 billion the last 7 years. And we are actually, as a matter of fact, we're spending a lot of money on research how to have cleaner combustion. This is something we can implement now. Cleaner combustion facilities, carbon storage, which is quite a new thing.
The major effect on climate change, for any sort of resolve to take place, you'll need to cut down at least 30% of your emissions by 2020. So do you think that the US should agree in making a binding commitment to these cuts?
Well, first of all, I have to say that we already cut down our emissions below the 1990 standards. So that'll mean all the oil and gas industry has made tremendous efforts.
I guess you've got to be mindful of the lagged effects as increasing nuclear power stations, oil refineries will catch up with us eventually. We have the potential to reduce emissions by 80% by 2050 if we act now. I may also add that the cost of acting now would be 1% GDP per year, but the cost of doing nothing, at best 5% GDP per year, up to 20% in worst case scenario.
I think on carbon or on CO2 emissions, there's a lot of misinformation. For example, I don't know if you heard about the recent reports from the New York Times. People hacked into the computers of very important climate researchers, and they couldn't. They had like information there that said that they had some dodgy data in their research, and that they also couldn't account for the current cooling down period. Now it's all projected as, well, the cooling down will lead to us heating up very soon, but actually they couldn't account for why it cools down at the moment. So this is also very controversial.
Can you quickly summarize what your key priorities are?
Basically, we want to have more research. We want to have a fully fledged, flexible approach for every country that is on a voluntary basis. We need to do a lot of research on cleaner combustion. We need to do a lot of research on renewable energy. We need to do a lot of research on carbon catching the carbon dioxide and storing it. These are the most important things that have to be done now, and they are actually economically feasible now.
Greenpeace advocates phasing out of nuclear and coal power, perhaps with a transitionary period to use natural gases, realistically to move over to renewables. This is the future. It's going to create new jobs and protect us against various threats to security. We need reductions in emissions, 40% from developing countries by 2020 on 1990 levels, and 15 to 30% on developing countries with support from industrialized nations.
Stay tuned for more updates as the situation develops. I'm Rahil Mohammed, you're watching CNN News.